Good morning, children. Now, today we come to the last part of this lesson, metals and non-metals, and that is corrosion. Now, children, when we buy silver articles, like for example, when we buy silver chains or maybe some silver bangles, when we buy silver articles, they are silvery gray and shiny. But after some time, the metal silver turns black in color. Now, this is because silver, when exposed to air, reacts with sulfur which is present in the air and it forms a compound called silver sulfide. Now, the formation of this compound, silver sulfide, it is what makes it black in color. Okay, so silver articles, remember, become black after some time when they are exposed to air. The silver article reacts with sulfur which is present in the air or compounds of sulfur in the air and it forms silver sulfide. Is that clear to all of you? Similarly, if you take another metal, like for example, if you look at copper. Copper is reddish brown in color. It slowly reacts with carbon dioxide in the air and it forms a compound which is called copper carbonate. Now, the formation of this compound, copper carbonate, is what makes it green in color. So, copper reacts with moist carbon dioxide in the air and it slowly loses its shiny appearance, its shiny brown surface, and it turns green. It gains a green coating due to the formation of copper carbonate. And then we have a very common metal that all of us use, and that is iron. Iron is grayish silver in color, gray in color. Iron reacts with moist air. That air should have moisture. So iron reacts with moist air and it becomes rusty. It becomes brown and flaky. Now, that brown flaky substance is due to the formation of a compound called iron oxide. Is that clear? So, these are nothing but examples of corrosion. So, metals tend to get corroded. Silver, which is silvery gray, becomes black when it is exposed to air as it reacts with sulfur in the air and it forms silver sulfide. Copper reacts with moist carbon dioxide in the air and it slowly loses its shiny surface and it gains a green coat of copper carbonate. And then you have iron that reacts with moist air to form iron oxide. Now we come to a very simple experiment to show that both moisture as well as air is needed for the formation of iron oxide. Okay, now children, in this particular figure, there are three test tubes. Test tube A, test tube B and test tube C. In the first test tube, there is a nail which is dipped in water. So basically, this nail is exposed to water here. Did you follow? And it is also exposed to air. So in this particular test tube, the first one, there is air and there is also water. In the second test tube, this nail is dipped in boiled distilled water. Okay. Now the water is boiled so that even if there is a little bit of moisture over the air, that little moisture will condense and there will be only water here. So in this particular second test tube, there is only water. Is that clear to everyone? And if you look at the third test tube, it is seen that in the third test tube, it's absolutely dry. Is that clear? There is only air over here, only air. And to this test tube, they have added anhydrous calcium chloride. Now, what anhydrous calcium chloride does is it acts as a drying agent. It absorbs all the moisture. So, in the first test tube, there is air and water. That means air and moisture. In the second test tube, there is only water, only moisture. And in the third test tube, there is only air. So, the anhydrous calcium chloride is added there, remember, only to absorb the moisture. So, if you look at the iron nails that are dipped in all three test tubes, it is seen that the iron nail in test tube A gets rusty, while in this two, the iron nails do not get rusty. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you is in this one where there is only water, hot boiling water, they have also added a little bit of oil here. So, oil basically forms a layer and it prevents the air which is outside here, if at all, from dissolving in the water. So, in the first test tube, there is only air, there is air and water. In the second test tube, there is only moisture, only water. And in the third test tube, the iron nail is exposed to only air. So, in the third test tube, the iron nail is put in an empty test tube. Okay, and then anhydrous calcium chloride is used, which acts as a drying agent. So, remember that for corrosion to take place, you need both air, that's oxygen, as well as moisture for rusting of iron to take place. Now we come to the next subtopic, and that is prevention of corrosion. Now, how can corrosion be prevented? Now, there are different methods that can be used to carry out corrosion. The first one is painting. The second method is oiling. The third one is greasing. Then we have galvanizing. Okay. Then we have chrome plating. And then we have anodizing. And the last one is alloying or making alloys. Okay. So we can prevent metals from corrosion by carrying out any one of these 7 methods. So painting, oiling, greasing. So these substances, the paint or the oil or the grease, forms a coating over the metal, and it does not allow the oxygen and the moisture from the surrounding air to come in contact with the metal. So that is how it prevents corrosion. Now for galvanizing, what they do is they protect the metal, either steel or iron, by coating it with a layer of zinc. So if this is iron, this is the iron plate. Okay, they coat this iron plate with zinc. Zinc is less reactive than iron. So this zinc is used for coating the steel or the iron material inside. And zinc is less reactive. Okay, so iron, when it is coated with zinc, forms galvanized iron. Okay, so for galvanizing, they prevent the metal, the steel or the iron, from rusting by just coating it with a thin layer of zinc. Then we have another method which is called alloying. Now, alloying is a method that improves the properties of the metal. Okay, galvanizing is a method of protecting the metal from rusting by coating it with a thin layer of zinc. Alloying is a method which is used to improve the properties of the metal. Like for example, if you look at pure iron. Now if you look at pure iron, it is seen that pure iron is very soft and it stretches also very easily when it is hot. Okay, so if it is soft and stretches easily, we can't really make use of it because it will keep getting softer and softer and then it will stretch. The shape will change. So what they do is they mix a small amount of carbon with iron. Okay, so about 0.05% of carbon is used. And when they mix carbon with pure iron, it becomes hard. So here you're changing the properties. What was soft now becomes hard. And it becomes very strong. It doesn't stretch very easily. Okay, so alloying is basically a method where you can use to improve the properties of the metal. The properties of any metal can be changed when it is mixed with another substance. So what is an alloy? Remember, an alloy is a homogeneous mixture. You mix of two or more metals or it may be a metal mixed with a non-metal. Like in this case, pure iron is mixed with carbon. Iron is a metal, carbon is a non-metal. Or sometimes you may just mix two metals. You may mix copper with zinc to give you brass. Brass is copper with zinc, two metals. Or you may mix copper with tin. So when you mix copper with tin, you get another alloy which is called bronze. Is that clear? So remember, an alloy is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals or a metal and a non-metal. And an alloy is prepared by mixing the primary metal. So the main metal you take first and then you dissolve the other metal. Like in this case, you will first melt the primary metal. So you take iron first and you melt it and then you slowly dissolve carbon in a definite proportion and then it is cooled to room temperature. So remember, an alloy is prepared by mixing the primary metal and then by melting the primary metal and then you dissolve the other element in a definite proportion and then you cool them. So you take the main metal first and you melt it. And then you slowly add the other metal or the other non-metal in a definite proportion and then they are cooled to room temperature. Is that clear to all of you? Now if you are making an alloy, if any one of the metals in the alloy is mercury, then it is called as amalgam. A-M-A-L-G-A-M. Okay, so if any one of the metals is mercury, then it is called amalgam. Now remember, very, very important, that the electrical conductivity of an alloy is less than that of a pure metal. Is that clear? So if you look at an alloy, when you make an alloy, the conductivity of that alloy, the electrical conductivity of the alloy and the melting point of that alloy will be less than that of the pure metal. Okay, like for example, you have brass here and bronze. Brass and bronze are alloys. Both these alloys are not good conductors of electricity. The electrical conductivity is very low of brass and bronze. But if you look at copper, which is used in both, copper is a very good conductor of electricity and it is used in electric circuits. But the alloy, brass and bronze have very low conductivity. Is that clear to all of you? So remember, the electrical conductivity and the melting point of an alloy is always less than that of the pure metal. So if you look at brass and bronze, both these alloys are not good conductors of electricity. But both these alloys contain copper, and copper is a good conductor of electricity, and it is used in circuits, electric circuits. Now there is another alloy which is called solder. Now this alloy solder is made by mixing lead and tin. And this particular alloy solder is used for welding wires together, as it has a very low melting point. So I told you the alloys have a low melting point as compared to the metals used in them. So solder is an alloy which has a low melting point. Okay, so remember two things. When you make an alloy, their electrical conductivity and their melting point is lower than that of the metal. So electrical conductivity of brass and bronze is low. They are not good conductors of electricity, but copper is a good conductor of electricity. And if you look at solder, the melting point of solder is low. So solder is an alloy of lead and tin. So since their melting point is low, they are used for welding wires together. So with this, we finish with the lesson metals and non-metals. It was quite a long lesson. Please see that you watch all the videos again slowly. Even when you are revising, watch one video and then you study the notes of that video. Watch the second video, study the notes of the second. And after you finish all like that, you go through the whole textbook and you see that you study the diagrams that are marked related to this particular lesson.